Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tanner's Favorite Things. I'm Tanner Knight, and today we're going to be talking about these two orange amps. Alright, so what do we have here? Well, if you're familiar with this channel, you'll probably be familiar with this guy right here, the Orange Rocker 30. This is my old standby, my very first tube amp head, and I bought this about, 5 or 6 years ago, and it's been the perfect complement to this Marshall head and my 5150 further over to the left. So I love this amplifier, and I plug it into a variety of cabinets, and it always sounds good. It's like just the perfect amount of clean, the perfect amount of bottom end on that clean, plus the perfect amount of crunch when you add that dirty channel. So what do we have on top of this? The Orange TH30. So we have 30 and 30. What does that mean? We have two 30-watt tube amp heads right here by the company Orange, which is a company out of the UK. And why would I have two 30-watt tube amp heads from the same company, you might ask? And that's a very good question. And I think by the end of this review, you'll understand why. Without giving away too much, I can say that these are two very, very different amplifiers. The TH30 is typically known as a higher gain kind of metal, really use that crunch channel and be in the high gain land for days and days and days, and that's where it lives. The Rocker 30 is kind of touted as a bit more versatile. It's more of your everyman style of amp where it does a lot of things really, really well, like blues, rock, even metal, some metal. It's not as djenty as this guy here, but I think that we'll find that you can dial up the gain and really get some usable tones out of it. So the reason that we're here today is to discuss which one of these amps would make the most sense for you. And I can tell you which one makes the most sense for me. And at the end of this video, I'm gonna put one of these up for sale and move on from it. But we're gonna go ahead and talk about them in between. So the Rocker 30, it's the everyman amplifier, like I said. It's 2-channel and all tube. We have very simple controls on all of these Orange amps, not just these two, but the full range of Orange amplifiers. They've really had a concerted effort in their design to make controls that are easily read, whether they're graphics or letters and words, or in some cases just graphics. But we have both graphics and words on both of these in English. Nice little fact there. If you do not speak English, you have these graphic representations right on top. So that's cool. Let's go through the panel. We have on, off, and standby on one switch right here. In the middle it's standby, on here, but we'll leave it off for now. And then our next toggle is our channel, our clean or natural, and then dirty or crunchy. So that's all you get for switches. We have one more up here. If you take a look at the switches, we have on, off, and then we have standby half full. And this switch is a really, really interesting switch that I was excited to play with, because what this does is it says, give me full 30 watts at full, give me half 15 watts, or put it in standby. So you have your standby here and your on and off here, and then basically a wattage switch versus 30 versus 15. And even further beyond that, there is a switch on the back that allows you to bump that down to 7.5 watts, I guess, or 7 watts, I don't know. But either way, you can go to a really bedroom friendly 7 watts. So again, we have standby in the middle, and then our channel selector, dirty, clean. So this is interesting. The natural channel is called natural, and it's up on the Rocker 30, and dirty is down. Dirty is up on the TH30, and the clean is called clean instead of natural. I don't know why they switched naming schemes for that, but other than that, the switches are different, and there's a reason for this. I'll just come right out and say it. This amp is made in China. That's one of the big differentiating factors between these two amplifiers. A lot of people say, I don't want to purchase a product from China. I personally am less skeptical of Chinese products. I don't necessarily like how the Chinese government manipulates their economy and therefore the world economy, but that's not the point of this video. Some people like China, some people don't. This is a Chinese-made head. This one's made in England. So keep that in mind. But you can tell by the switches that we have a little higher quality switches. This one's just a little nicer. It's got not shinier metal, but more burnished metal, so it looks just nicer, and you can grab onto it. This one you can grab onto as well, it's just a little less nice feeling. Other than that, our jewel is pretty much the same that shows on or off on this amplifier, just orange on both. It's an LED, pretty standard. Okay, so now we get into our knobs. This is where things get much more different. And let's start with the Rocker 30. We have dirty volume, and keep in mind, both of these are dual channel amps, 2 channels, foot switchable. So with the Rocker 30, we have basically 2 sets of controls. The dirty, where we have dirty volume, dirty high, dirty mid, dirty low, dirty gain, and then natural gets its own volume channel, and I don't know, I don't think these actually affect the natural channel. So you just get all the way up or all the way down. Lots of headroom on that 30 watts, especially when it's plugged into a 4x12 cabinet. Okay, up top here, we have dirty channel and clean channel. It's a little more laid out, half and half, where we have volume, shape, gain for dirty, and then for clean, we have treble, bass, volume. So, interesting take from Orange. They figure in your dirty channel, all you're really going to be doing is messing with the shape, which is almost akin to just scooping the mids, adding more mids, messing with the bottom end and the treble. That's what the shape is. And then of course volume and gain, amount of crunch that you want in your sound. Where the clean channel, it's either treble, where you can really make it bright or make it less bright, bass, and they don't give you the option to mess with the mids, just volume from there on out. And then 1 input for each. 2 channel amp, 1 input, very standard. As far as the styling goes, I think that the Chinese product, the Chinese TH30, does a really fine job of emulating the style and feel of the British-made version. And I would say the Tolex is, it's very similar, and especially in look. I would say it's a little rougher up here, but this is an older amp. It's been around, so I guess that's to be expected a little bit. But the Tolex is a little bit rougher. The corners are virtually identical, and both metal. That is, the feet are virtually identical. I think the ones on the TH30 are a little taller, and the ones on the Rocker 30 are a little wider. So slight, subtle variation, and then the handle is pretty much the same. So let's go ahead and flip these things around, check out the back panel, and then we'll plug in and see what they sound like. Alright, so I've got these things turned around, and you can see, again, a lot of differences. First of all, we have a lot of similarities, such as this plate and this plate are pretty much identical. The screws used to affix that plate are different. This looks kind of like the same screws you'd find on the back of a cabinet to affix the panel of a cabinet. And these are just kind of machine screws here, or maybe just wood screws, can't tell. Yeah, I think they're machine screws. There's a little panel right in here, and this goes right into the wood. So small difference worth noting. Then we have the actual amplifiers. So this is a birch cabinet that Orange uses for all of their 30 watt, this form factor, the AD30, Rocker 30, TH30. It's all birch, so pretty similar there. The main differences come in the actual amplifier itself, which is this white thing here, and you can maybe make out the tubes. We'll get some close-ups for you here in a second and talk about the tubes. But before we do that, let's just take a look at this panel and see how the controls differ. So first of all, made in Britain. There's a nice little Union Jack there that everybody can recognize. And our very first 1/4 inch input is for our foot switch, and our foot switch is our 4th on the input here. So they kind of swap the speaker cabinet outputs and make them first here, foot switch second, foot switch first, cabinet outputs here. And this is very similar, 8 ohm, 8 ohm, 16 ohm, 8 ohm, 8 ohm, 16 ohm. So a very common cabinet option. So you can have either 2 8 ohm cabinets or 1 16 ohm, or 1 8 ohm for that matter. So that's pretty standard. We have a send and return on the TH30, so an effects loop, which we don't have one on the back of this. There's no effects loop on the Rocker 30. Just plug your pedal board right on the front and giddy up. So I personally don't use a send and return loop all that often. I find that the way that it bypasses the preamp isn't always the most friendly to my pedal board, so take that with a grain of salt with yours, but there you go. Otherwise, we've got some orange indicator, rocker 30, amplifier head, 30 watts RMS, and the serial number. TH30 amplifier head, a date, no, we have actually an output, 715 30 watts RMS, and a serial number. Other than that, pretty straightforward. We have a fuse port. This one's a little burlier here, but it's the same T500 MA milliamp fuse, and 120 volt selector here. It looks like you can select that for 120 and maybe 100. So we'll of course leave that on 120. Okay, so what do we have for tubes? The Rocker 30 has 3 ECC83 preamp tubes. It also has 2 EL34 power tubes. So this is a very familiar complement of tubes for British sounding amps or British amplifiers. So ECC83 in the pre, only 2 of them, or sorry, 3 of them, and then 2 of the EL84s. Now, interestingly enough, we have a pretty similar tube complement in the TH30, but not the same number. We have 4 ECC83 preamp tubes, 4 of them versus 3, and then we have 4 EL84 power tubes. So 2 EL34s, 4 EL84 power tubes. So that would make you think that both of these amps would have very different sound signatures, and you'd be correct. So there you go. Both of those complements of tubes all equate to 30 watts, and we have 2 very different 30 watt amplifiers from Orange. So, like I said, the TH30, definitely more high gain oriented, geared towards getting those metal tones, maybe scoop mids, and really powerful distorted tones. High gain, that's what you're looking for. TH30s, where they kind of point people. And the EL34 tubes in the Rocker 30 make for more of a bluesy, rocky sound that can be driven pretty hard. All right, let's plug these things in and hear what they sound like. So this might get a little long. So let me just go ahead and warn you off the bat, this might get a little long just because we've got a few different sounds out of both of these amps, and I want to kind of give a full, or as full a range I can when it comes to tones. So I'm going to go ahead and start in the TH30, and I've got it on full, so that's full 30 watts, and we want to keep things as apples to apples as possible. So we're going to keep all other things the same. This guitar, this cabinet, and these 2 amps, and we'll see what other kind of pedals we add to it. But what do we have for guitar? PRS S2 variant of the McCarty 594. This is one of those guitars that Paul Reed Smith developed after his relationship developed with Ted McCarty, the former Gibson executive who made a lot of big time decisions with, you know, historical guitars back in the day. So we have PRS McCarty 594 with Lindy Fralin big singles. I think they're single coil pickups designed to sound kind of like humbuckers, but it's kind of hard to find information on these. If you have any information about the Lindy Fralin big singles, let me know. This guitar is being plugged into my pedal board and right into the front of our Orange TH30. So the cabinet that we're using today is this Orange PPC 212 cabinet featuring 2 V30s, Celestion V30 speakers. Again, a very classic combination. I figured if we're going orange, we should go orange all the way, and I love this cabinet. This is actually my absolute favorite cabinet, and I tend to gravitate more towards the 4x12s, you know, just for fun. But when it comes down to pound for pound and sound for sound, this is my favorite cabinet, and hopefully it will give you an honest representation of what these 2 amps sound like. Capturing the sound today, I have 1 microphone per speaker for a total of 2 microphones, an SM58 on the right speaker, your left, and an Electro Voice PL88, also a dynamic microphone on the left, your right driver as well. I got them kind of positioned right in the center. The PL88 is straight on, and the SM58 is a little angled, so kind of different sounds, but it's a pretty common microphone complement as well, so everything here should be fairly recreatable or something that you're familiar with. And the main criteria we're looking at is what do these two amps sound like and how do they differ. So if you notice that it says I'm in the dirty channel on the TH30, I am, but I do have my foot switch hooked up. And one item of distinction, this amplifier does not come with a foot switch. If you want to take advantage of the two channels via the foot switch, then you'll have to either have one, like I did, or go out and buy one. I think they're about 30 bucks. Not the end of the world, but I believe the Rocker 30 does come with the pedal, and that's a nice little addition. So I have my orange pedal, and if you're ultra curious as to what that looks like, it just says orange and has a foot switch on the bottom. And that's how I'm going to be switching between the natural or clean and dirty channels today. So even though I'm in the dirty channel, I have my foot switch switched in the off position, so it defaults then to the clean channel, and it sounds like this. I can tell right now that's going to peak my audio, so let me bump down channel 2. 1 second. There we go. So if you're wondering why I look over to my right, I do have my DAW set up over here on my computer, my digital audio workstation that is capturing the audio being captured from these two microphones. So my audio interface today is the Focusrite Scarlett 18i20, and you know, it's a fairly inexpensive interface with a ton of inputs and outputs, so it's a very valuable tool in my kit, and if you have any questions about that, also please let me know. So here we go, one more time, clean channel TH30. Very nice clean tones. Not something that I'm embarrassed of by any means. And again, this is not what this amp is for. I mean, of course it does have that channel and I suggest you use it to get your money's worth, but it's a high gain amplifier and most people are just going to live in that high gain tones. But if you need to kick it into a quiet, kind of pensive type of you know, you have that ability to do so. It's a nice clean channel. So let's go ahead and hear the clean channel on the Rocker 30 next, and then we will go ahead and get a side-by-side with the dirty stuff so we don't lose too much of a perspective about what each sounds like. So here you go, Rocker 30. So that sound is immediately recognizable to my ear because I've played this amp so many times. Super sweet cleans, nice and round, full, yet not too jarring. The settings that I keep this amplifier at for the clean setting, and again, we are in the dirty setting on this amplifier with the foot switch. So the natural volume I have at about 55%, and everything else we'll talk about when we get to the dirty channel. Okay, so back here at the TH30, in our clean channel, I had the treble right about 70%. The bass is only about 25 or 30%, and our volume is around 47%. So that's a clean channel going into a 2x12 and a very respectable clean sound. Now let's go ahead and hear that dirty sound after hearing the Rocker 30. So I'm just going to go ahead and kick it into the dirty channel. And that's kind of the setting where I landed on this amp. And before we go too far, the volume is set at 45. The shape, the middle, is set to right above middle, 55% or so. And our gain is right around 70%, 65, 70. And this is what that sounds like. super tight and bouncy, makes you want to just kind of gent all over the place. And this is by no means the gainiest that this amp can sound. We'll bump that up here in a second, but this is kind of the sweet spot where I would run this amplifier. Can it get gainier? Yes. I typically lean on the metal zone for those kinds of tones, so once we get in that area, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's the TH30 dirty channel. Let's hear a little bit of lead with it. It gets a little fizzy towards the top end of the tonal spectrum. When we get up in these higher strings and higher registers, it gets a little fuzzy. Just listen to that. It's just a little unforgiving, and I guess due to the nature of this amplifier being geared towards that high gain, you should expect a bit of fizz in the sound. So let's go ahead and hear the Rocker 30 on what I have dialed in as my preferred dirty channel and give you a good comparison against the two. So here you go, Rocker 30 dirty channel. I could live in that clean tone for days, but we're not here for the clean tones. I know that everybody loves cleans at a certain time. So let's go back to the TH30, kick that thing into the dirty channel, and let's get some comparison of these two amps in the dirty channel. So you can immediately hear that I don't keep this dirty channel as gained up as the TH30, and we can go a little bit higher, but we're on, I don't know, 55%, 60% already, and it's a nice just rhythm gain sound that would work for pretty much 75% of all guitar applications in the world. And beyond that, we can just crank it up on the amp or add another stage of gain via pedal. But let's go ahead and hear the higher registers on the Rocker 30. So, like I said, very rhythm guitar oriented. Very nice. Let's bump that gain up just for the sake of argument. Here we go. So there you go. Just by bumping up that gain, I went to about 73% and dropped the volume because that added way too much squeal in. But dropping the volume, adding the gain, it's very versatile. You have a huge range of options between natural and very high gain without reaching that super genty metal zone. Let's go ahead and bump that gain up a little more. Now it's at 100%. Sounds great. I love it. It's perfect all the way through that dial gain, and there's no weird fizzy fake sounds. And again, this amplifier is perfect for pedals, so if you really want to get that high gain sound, go with the metal zone and you're there. Of course, we have our other settings to mess with, our dirty high, mid, and low, but they do exactly as you would expect. They boost the highs, mediums, and lows, and you can have a ball doing that. I personally like them right there, so I just don't mess with them for the most part, and add whatever stage of gain via pedal, and using this channel 2, this dirty channel on the orange Rocker 30 amp. So there's a little head-to-head clean dirty. Let's go back to the TH30 and mess around with those dials a little bit. So there you go, Rocker 30 dirty channel. Let's go ahead and mess with the TH30 a little bit, since I don't have as much experience with this and there are more controls. I want to see what that shape knob does, and I also want to see what it sounds like in 15 watts and then 7 watts. All right, so here's that dirty channel in the TH30 without changing anything. So, if you didn't notice what I did there, I cranked the gain on this thing, just dimed it out, 100%. I thought it would sound flubby or gross, but it just richened up the sound, and I think that that's where this amp needs to live. You just need to crank the gain. Let me see if I can get a little quieter sound with a lower volume, and then we'll go to that 15 watt setting and see what that sounds like. Yeah, to me that kills the character. I think when you drop the volume below that 45% threshold, it takes the feel out of it. It just feels a little dead, a little dull, just not as exciting. So I want to hear that one more time, back up at 45, and then we'll kick it into the half setting, the 15 watts. Cool. So that did kind of what I was hoping it would do. It kept the feel and the bounce of the high gain. It just kind of lowered the volume without losing any of the punch or the fizz or the energy, I guess. I know these are all very esoteric terms and subject to being subjective, but you know, I'm trying to do the best I can. So I think that 15 watt setting will sound even better when we crank that volume, so let's go ahead and do that. So, interestingly enough, it looks like the half setting is only applicable to the dirty channel. When I switched it into half on the clean channel, didn't do anything. Didn't kill any of the decibels, just maintained the same level. So the half 15 watt setting is only applicable on the dirty channel, and oh boy, that thing still rips. It might even sound better than the 30 watt section just because it's pushing it pretty hard, even though half of those tubes are kind of out of the mix. So I think that's what it's doing, is it's taking exactly half of the tube complement out each time, and that's why there's an even number of tubes, 4 and 4, for each power and pre section. That's still pretty devastating coming out of a 2x12. I want to plug it into my Marshall 4x12 stack, but I don't think we have time for that, as we have a few more settings that I want to take a look at here. Let's toggle that shape dial now that I have a really respectable high gain sound. I'm going to keep it in that half section just because I like it so much, and see what the shape does to that. Pretty gnarly. I like how it sounds, mostly when the mids are scooped. And I'm guessing at this because the shape of the shape is an hourglass. So I assume when it's in the middle, that means when the mids are the most scooped. They're kind of honky towards the outer extremes, but I kind of like this setting too over here on the left. Somewhere in between that 25 to 50% is where I prefer that shape dial, I think, on this thing. Again, it doesn't have anything to do with the clean channel. This is just a dirty channel function here. So let's try that again. Well, here's a kicker that I just discovered now. The switch on the back of the amp that determines whether all 4 of the power and preamp tubes are in play versus 2 was switched to the middle section, or the half section already. So 2 of those tubes on either preamp and power output section were already out of the mix. So we were on the low wattage setting to begin with. Crazy, I know. The good news is that I'm fairly certain we were just on the 7-watt settings, and it was deafening. So I guess so much for that bedroom sound. You really need to crank this thing to get the most out of it. So I don't think there's a situation in which you would play this and feel good about it at bedroom levels. So maybe I'm wrong, but it's a friggin' beast. So now that we have all of those tubes engaged, I kind of have to go about this again and show you the true dirty channel on this thing. So here we go, we're in full go 30-watt mode, and it sounds like this. So, a bit louder. I can't say that it's double as loud because it's not. The physics of sound and electricity do not work that way. 30 watts is not twice as much sound as 15 watts. It's the opposite of exponential in that the more watts you add, it doesn't, you know, exponentially add sound. So, the 30 watt variant is very loud, very good sounding and full. That's where I think that this amp really sits the best, is in that full 30 watt section with a 2x12 or even a 4x12 cabinet. I haven't touched the gain. It is at 100%, and that is a lot on an amp like this, but it really makes this sound good. The shape right in the middle somewhere, volume at 45, perfect. Again, I do have ear protection in, and I encourage you to wear ear protection anytime you practice when your amp creates decibels louder than 85 decibels. That's kind of the threshold of safe listening. So go ahead and pop in some ear protection whenever you can, and I think you'll enjoy life a bit more if you do. So what's my final take between these two amplifiers? Well, I think you probably know by now I lean towards the Rocker 30. The Orange Rocker 30 is such a versatile amp with sounds that never disappoint, and you plug it into any cabinet, it sounds really good. The one thing that I didn't really cover in this video that I have found with playing with this amplifier is that the TH30 does not accept pedals as well as the Rocker 30, and maybe that's because I'm plugging into the front instead of the effects loop. But again, I have generally not the best luck with the effects loop, so I figured it should be the same, Rocker 30 into the front end of the TH30, but it doesn't accept my pedals as well. There's a little bit of, I want to say, just a kind of electronic resonance or artifacts in the sound, and it just sounds a little manufactured. So I tend to gravitate towards the Rocker 30 because I use my pedal board quite a bit, and you know, I want to take full advantage of that. So the Rocker 30 is a little bit better platform for that for me. Otherwise, I don't play high gain metal tones all the time. Sure, I love that djenty stuff. That's I love it. I love really progressive stuff that like Tosin Abasi and all of that whole genre of music has kind of opened the door to. I love that stuff, but I personally can't play it yet, and I have other tastes that kind of take me in, I don't know, more traditional sound realms. So that's why I lean towards the Rocker 30. You can probably pick this TH30 up from me after this video if you would like. Hit me up. I can send it out and get you a good deal on it. Outside of reverb, that is. They take a huge chunk these days, so try to avoid that. So if you do want to purchase this TH30, let me know. We can work something out. I unfortunately can't keep both, although it looks badass having both orange amps up there. I don't know, I can't justify it. I did want to put them head to head, and I also wanted to get the AD30 in there, but it just didn't line up. I have a friend with an AD30, maybe we'll go ahead and do a video on that one later if I can borrow it. But so far, the Rocker 30 is the best 30 watt platform for me. I love it, and I will continue to play through it. So let me know if you have any questions about the TH30 or the Rocker 30 or any of the gear you've seen here today, and I will be glad to tell you all about it from my perspective and give you my thumbs up, thumbs down. Obviously, if I'm playing something, chances are I like it and I'll have a favorable opinion, but either way, let me know and we can talk about it. So thank you again for watching. I hope you like this style of content. If so, you can always like and subscribe. That always helps out and gives me a little bit of direction on where to put my efforts in the future. So if there's a specific piece of gear that you would like to see showcased on this channel, give me a shout and we'll try to make it happen. All right, thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.